Chapter 353, Inhabited Area. Translator, Strivon. Within the car, old Jin's gluttonous nature didn't change. His hand held a bag of food. This time it was a popular snack, roasted donkey meat with 4 long slices of flat bread stacked atop each other, alternating meat and bread. It was very thick. The greasy red meat bread went inside old Jin's mouth the moment ink flew inside. He bit it in half with one bite, the roasted chunks of meat dribbling with oil, seeping into his beard. He ate quite energetically. Seeing these things, Luo Nan's sensory organs felt conflicted. He didn't know whether to feel full or hungry. Sitting in the back seat, Peony's behavior was opposite of old Jin's. She sat in absolute silence. She held a book in her hands, reading it. The book was a paperback, something rarely seen these days. The thin pages and the print were extremely delicate, but the book appeared to be quite well used. The pages were warped and old. Luo Nan easily used his senses. The words, the Lotus Sutra, could be read on the warped cover of the book. Luo Nan recalled that this was a Buddhist text. This was something very rarely seen. When reading, Peony lacked her usual easygoing charm. She sat ramrod straight, her long, slender fingers resting on the pages, seemingly moving yet not. Ink made quite the noise when it came crashing inside, but she lifted not even her head. This wasn't arrogance. This was genuine concentration. Luo Nan felt that the world was aware and was full of irony. First was the Book of the Tao, then it was the Lotus Sutra. What was going on today? Would someone bring out the Holy Bible later today? Nobody turned superfluous after ink squeezed its way in. The ordinary SUV started up and entered the high-speed magnetic rails, following the signs toward Man City. They were leaving Xia City. According to the schedule, today's main item was still a meeting, an on-site meeting. Trigate Security arranged the entire team to do an on-site investigation of the situation regarding the mutants that infiltrated. They also arranged it to introduce more detailed information. Peony only closed her book after the car started. She put in a bookmark and looked at the book with quite a cherishing expression. Perhaps this book held some significant meaning to her. Luo Nan made this conjecture based on his own point of view. In any case, Peony clearly didn't intend to chat with him about sutras or private matters. Her gaze shifted to ink, and her eyes curved into charming arcs once more. "Crow, you nearly caused Mr. Ink to be late." The odd names and the beings they were attached to would make those who weren't familiar with this team have their scalp go numb. Luo Nan recalled the small dialogue last night that had to do with these names. That conversation was the longest they chatted last night. Perhaps Peony's preliminary judgment of his character was largely derived from this. Luo Nan was not an expert on such analysis. He simply disregarded her and maintained his silence. Peony expressed herself quite actively. "For the sake of improving efficiency, we can change the way the team moves. For instance, Mr. Ink can be together with me from beginning to end. This is to avoid all sorts of sudden occurrences from causing awkward circumstances." She didn't describe what the awkward circumstances were in detail, but Luo Nan could roughly imagine it. Peony asked, "Does Mr. Ink need to recharge?" Recharge? Luo Nan was stunned for a moment before understanding. Peony was asking about how things worked between him and Ink. Luo Nan didn't respond directly. Instead, he gave a small lie. "If you don't mind, then I'll have Ink accompany you for a few days. I can connect at any time." Ink was able to tell that the two were talking about it. It cast pitch-black pupils to the slender figure in the back seat, not blinking an eye. "That's great." It seemed that Peony didn't hear the tiny bit of ill intent in Luo Nan's words. She just reached out a hand and patted ink on its ash-white beak. She teased the enormous rook as she said, "From the intelligence gained last night, the area of importance where the targets have infiltrated ranges from the west side of the River Wu district all the way to outside the main city district. The situation with the recycling stratum is slightly more complicated. I plan to find a temporary place to live in within the River Wu district to engage in all-day reconnaissance." Luo Nan thought of his little nest within Blue Bay's. All right, he obviously wouldn't offer it. He didn't possess Peony's outstanding intelligence analysis ability. He didn't speak, doing his utmost to keep his mouth shut. He would talk after they had reached the site to go investigate. The ordinary SUV weaved in and out of the early morning traffic. It took about half an hour for the SUV to enter the River Wu district and the bordering Forest Wall district. They were outside the main area of Xia City by now, and they set off toward Trigate District to the west. According to the normal driving route, they would be able to reach the surrounding wilderness in an hour if they went along satellite towns at high speeds. There wasn't anything to say about the route to the Trigate District, located several dozen kilometers away. But reality proved itself to be complicated. It was impossible for the mutants who had infiltrated Xia City to stick close to the high-speed route for their advancement. On the contrary, they followed their instinct to seek luck and avoid calamity. They avoided places where there were many people, such as the main traffic roads guarded under martial law. They acted quite rationally. The ordinary SUV left the main road soon after it left the main city district. 4 gears touched the earth, and thus began the bumpy journey. The roads here were extremely bad, a first that Luo Nan had ever seen in his life. It was as if an air raid had rained down on this place. There were craters everywhere. Old Jin, who sat in the driver's seat, grasped the steering wheel. He had switched from automatic driving mode to manual mode. He just yawned, giving the riders in the car complex emotions. Old Jin was silent most of the time after the few words he spoke in the very beginning. He just expressed himself by stuffing his stomach full of food. He wasn't cold or friendly. He gave off an aura of a guy who just cared about clocking in and clocking out of work. He said it himself, he was just a driver. Luo Nan sought nothing else from a driver. He was just baffled. What the heck was the government of Xia City doing? There were people living here. It was a standing living area. Even the roads at the recycling stratum were much better than the ones here. Actually, there were several things quite in line with the recycling stratum on the 2 sides of the road. There were short buildings strewn at random, many of them being temporary buildings. However, they looked quite new based on their paint job. He could even vaguely see kids playing by the side of the road, giggling in fun. Luo Nan recalled the data and was certain that they were at the edge of the Trigate District. Trigate District was once the station for Xia City's garrison camp, having been decommissioned not too long ago. Military had guarded this place year-round, causing clear differences with the modern metropolis. Traces of things having been moved could be seen everywhere as well. Then someone came calling through the wristband, "Miss Peony, hello. I am Axel Xiu of Trigate Security. Please report your location." This Axel Xiu fellow was the intelligence officer on the Trigate Security's action team. He was in charge of contact work, and he was in charge of explaining the data during yesterday's meeting. He was an astute man. Peony started up the position-sharing function on her wristband, and Xiu soon responded, "I see you guys." A large transport vehicle was parked to the side of the road just ahead. It turned on its lights as his voice fell. The body of the vehicle was pitch black, and it started up, signaling Luo Nan's party to follow it. The ordinary SUV was quite suited for the surrounding environment, but the dual-purpose military police transport vehicle of Trigate Security was more eye-catching, though the equipment and people it was transporting had it easy. The transport had attracted the gazes of quite a few people when it was parked by the road. When the transport began to move, kids riding skateboards, go-karts, and so on tailed behind the transport. They played quite exuberantly, producing a rather comical scene. The party of people went through this inhabited area under this odd atmosphere until they arrived at a relatively spacious zone. The two vehicles, large and small, parked. There was a high point not too far away on the right-hand side. A reservoir was built there, and vegetation was dense. There was dark green in the distance, even though it was autumn, and it was rather pleasing to the eyes. The door to the transport cart opened up, and the personnel of Trigate Security jumped out with cries. Most of the people were carrying equipment that had to be set up once they hit the ground. And within the transport was a complete, modern command center. All sorts of equipment were laid out perfectly, and there were at least 30 people working inside. Intelligence Officer Xiu appeared from the stream of people. He worked toward the ordinary SUV. Peony got off the car as well, extending a hand for a light shake. "Mr. Xiu, Director Wu isn't coming today." Xiu was just about to report on this matter when Peony had seized it first. His aura unconsciously grew a bit diffident, and his report turned into an explanation. "Director Wu is participating in a last-minute meeting. He is unable to come here. I represent him in apologizing to Miss Peony and Mr. Long 7. Is Long 7 here already?" "Mr. Long 7 came here a little earlier. He said that he's going to check out the reservoir." "Oh, really?" Peony gazed off into the distance with a subtle smile. She was dressed more or less the same as yesterday, wearing slim-fitting hunting clothes, most suitable for her tall figure. But this time, she didn't wear a ponytail. Her long hair was tied up in a bun, gathered in place by her wide-brimmed hat. The brim of her hat obstructed much of her charming eyes, but the shadow it cast accentuated the contours of her face all the more. She was explosively beautiful. Ink had just flown out of the car to undoubtedly serve as a prop. "We have detected the reservoir to be a place of importance." Intelligence Officer Xiu had lectured far too much yesterday. He subconsciously sought to explain, Trigate District used to be a river channel. The largest freshwater river around Xia City came through here to enter the ocean. But then the military implemented a destruction project during the Third War for the sake of defending against mutants breaking through from the river channel. The river bank was changed, and the river dried up. Today, this place is a low-lying area, but the groundwater system is still very complex. It needs to be observed with care. As he spoke, a child around 6 or 7 suddenly ran in front of them. The child opened his mouth and asked, "Are you here to fight gangs?" The kids from the inhabited area had followed them, and they finally arrived. They might be young, but they were quite interested to know what was going on. Plus, there was an enormous crow here. It was very eye-catching, so they naturally gathered over. Gangs. It looked like Peony was far more interested in this topic than the history of the Trigate District. Unfortunately, The reckless kid was dragged away by his companions, who ordered the kid to stop talking nonsense. Then the group of kids just faced the beauty, the large vehicle, and the crow with great interest. They stood in a circle and watched, and some even sought a chance to get something for cheap. They clamored over the body of the vehicle, the first ones having it easy and the latter ones having it hard. They wanted to touch Ink, who was on top of the vehicle, but they chased Ink to fly into the sky. Thus, Ink avoided the clutches of evil. It's very rare for kids inside the city to be this wild. There was a deeper meaning behind Peony's words. Xiu understood tacitly. Yes, they should be inhabitants who moved out from the recycling stratum. Rumor has it that there are some naturalized vagrants mixed inside. The social relation is extremely complicated. The military withdrew from this place quite poorly, suddenly turning it to an unregulated zone. Many people want to seize the opportunity for some conveniences. Are gangs very rampant here? The person who asked this wasn't Peony, but a man who had returned who knows when. It was Long 7, or in other words, Snake 7. Chapter 354, Mistake in Direction. Translator, Strivon. Today, Long 7 wore clothes well suited for the outdoors. He wore a leather jacket and a pair of short leather boots. A plaid scarf was even wrapped around his neck. He looked like a male model on the runway, giving off an extremely casual air. He and Peony were the most attractive people in the action team, but he intrinsically possessed quite the work ethic. His body was covered with dust, and there were cobwebs stuck to his leather jacket. He had clearly gone to the reservoir, and he had done more than just take a look. Long 7 patted the dust off his jacket before asking, "Are the influence of gangs spreading faster than the government's right now?" Xiu didn't want to talk about this, but Long 7 and Peony both had their eyes fixed upon him. They appeared to be very interested in this subject, so Xiu could only chat and explain, "See that road over there? The one that's half fixed." Everybody noticed the road in question to various degrees when leaving the city. An old highway extended out to this area from the main city district. It was a two-way road with 12 lanes in total. It was quite wide, but it should have been constructed quite far back, for there weren't any high-speed magnetic rails installed. No follow-up construction occurred as well. There was even some shape to it where it extended out from the city. It was unknown where it started exactly, but the road disappeared amongst the buildings of the city. There are already 30 years of history to this road. It was initially designed to be the main road to the east and west of Xia City, and it joins up with the war transport roads to the wilderness. But when superconductive technology became practical, main roads began to turn to the direction of magnetic rails. So this road was scrapped. Xiu projected a digital map and drew a line on it. But this geographical location is still quite good. Through this road, one can go straight to the recycling stratum of the River Wu district. So it's natural for criminal channels and related activity to be lively around here. Luo Nan recalled something when Xiu talked about this. He fought upon this road in the past. It was the time with Jack. Gangs were just a small episode. Today's primary objective was the discussion over the next move regarding the mutant infiltration. Actually, looking at Trigate Security's attitude, Luo Nan believed that an official reconnaissance search would start immediately. But whether it was Trigate Security, Peony, or Long 7, everyone was much more patient than he imagined. They continued to hold the meeting, and the meeting went on and on. The subject started from the river channel went to the riverbank, then to the inhabited area. They went through these areas one after another without taking any breaks all. They just barely finished talking about the inhabited area before following the most probable route for the target's advancement. They gradually pushed closer toward the main city district, stopping at the roadside at any time for information collection and discussion among the meeting members. Perhaps this was a sort of reconnaissance and search from their perspective. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan had been full of interest for the meeting yesterday afternoon. During yesterday morning, he could be considered cautious and conscientious. But by lunch today, his patience began to plummet. Ultimately speaking, he was already used to using extraordinary powers as an efficient and direct manner to resolve problems. He kept a respectful distance from so-called modeling, probabilities, and other mathematical problems. Yes, Yuan had mentioned this tendency in her course before. She called it extraordinary logic. This tendency was quite widespread in the inner world. Luo Nan never thought that he would subconsciously assimilate this as a newcomer who had just entered the inner world. He was forced to admire Peony and Long Seven as he watched them. These two people, one an elite of the hidden indigo firm, the other a burner, were both part of the circle of the inner world. He really didn't know how they were able to put up with its challenges. Luo Nan finally retreated in defeat. His mind completely withdrew to the school campus, just in time for lunch. Luo Nan and Xiu Lei's morning classes were different. They only got together after morning class was over to get and eat lunch together. Acumen College's lunch break was extremely short. They would have to eat fast in order to squeeze out some free time. Luo Nan and Xiu Lei both had noon classes. This made the timing tighter. The two had their heads buried in their food all the way until they sat on the campus shuttle. Only then did they have the time to chat. With noon classes about to start, Luo Nan mentioned last night's matter with the eye's orifice. Xiu Lei naturally was generous with praise. Nanster, you really are godlike. You've reached this stage in the internal refinement technique. You've already gone to the next level. Xiu Lei even spoke emotionally. Back then, I was just giving medicine to a dead horse, trying everything in a desperate situation. I wanted you to learn some breathing techniques to help alleviate your symptoms. I never thought that you would advance by leaps and bounds in this cultivation. Even the Gym Master said that you are the #1 in forging ahead in his many years of teaching disciples. Luo Nan laughed. I'm even thinking about the next steps. Gym Master Xiu said it before. Since you've already started with the eye's orifice, there's no harm in walking this road until the end. Recall this: 7 orifices, 6 roots, the gates of life and death. Perception and the profound shine upon each other to confirm life and nature. The profound has 7 orifices. Perception has 6 roots. One is heavy on life. The other is the cultivation of nature. The two mix and validate each other. This is the dual cultivation of life and nature. Xiu Lei's words were half literary and half vernacular. Luo Nan had been working hard recently, taking extra lessons and doing his homework. He was able to get a general understanding of what Xiu Lei was saying. Xiu Lei wanted him to cultivate the rest of his sensory organs, from the eye's orifice to the ear's orifice, the tongue orifice, the mouth orifice, the nose orifice, and so on. Cultivating in the 9 orifices and 6 roots would drive the inner organs, cultivating the entire body and polishing one's nature. The Gym Master said it before, but I'll mention it again. The concrete steps in reasoning will require direct contact with the Gym Master. Do you want to head over tonight? Of course, let's go. I can have the Gym Master assess me so I can avoid pursuing the wrong path. In other words, Luo Nan had to push the time to probe the mysteries of gear even further back. This wasn't the first time Luo Nan felt that there wasn't enough time, but similar emotions of sorrow were likely to appear more frequently in the future. Zhu Lei also asked about the outsourced work. He was curious about its situation. Luo Nan picked a few interesting things to tell him, and was unable to refrain from mentioning just how long and painful the meeting was going. Zhu Lei grit his teeth just by listening. We don't understand the world of professionals. If it were me, I'd probably go crazy. Your work is a bit different than what I imagined. When can you actually do stuff? God knows. Luo Nan's heart was very conflicted. In fact, he really hoped to obtain some knowledge and reap some income. But when things really went deeper, he wasn't able to keep up. He was able to understand 80% of what they said yesterday afternoon, while he was only able to understand 60% of this morning. He was afraid that this afternoon would become even more miserable for him. He was forced to admit, the difference between my composition of knowledge and these professionals is far too large, and Zhang Yingying wants me to seize the initiative and be active. How the heck do I do this? Nanster, I think you're going about this wrong. Zhu Lei shook his head. The Gym Master said once, the greatest taboo in cultivation is to know one and understand half, to have bits and pieces of knowledge. Assembling such knowledge together, believing it to be logical, is the path to death. If you can't keep up in lessons, you might as well not learn at all. Therefore, when the Gym Master teaches his students, the first thing he does is divide people in classes and grades, so that he could teach in line with the student's ability. Your circumstance right now may not be as dangerous, but it also sounds like it doesn't really matter. I feel that Senior Sister Yingying is quite right. You should seize the initiative. How do I seize it? Heck if I know. In any case, I think that since Her Majesty Empress Wu has outsourced this work to you, no matter how much Sister Yingying exerts herself in her firm, Her Majesty Empress Wu's ultimately believes in you. Her Majesty Empress Wu feels that you can do it, which means there has to be a way to do it. Otherwise, isn't she purposefully making things difficult for you? Zhu Lei's words weren't emotional, but Luo Nan could hear the meaning within. His heart immediately stirred. Her Majesty Empress Wu selected this work to be outsourced to him, originally as compensation for him. There was no reason to deliberately make things difficult for him. She had Peony be his partner for the purpose of filling his flaws, now that he thought about it. Otherwise, if that old woman really put her mind to it, Luo Nan wouldn't even have a scrap of pride left. All right, Luo Nan could admit that the level of professionalism that Peony displayed had really scared him. He had been dealing in someone else's expertise with no expertise of his own, so naturally, he fell downwind in every aspect. Zhu Lei added, actually, I feel that you've done things quite well in the past. The time at Frost River Reality. Red Fox and Papercut were both screwing with you, but in the end, they all accepted you. Then, of course, there's last week. We weren't able to help you at all, and you were able to settle everything by yourself. Luo Nan coughed, oh please. Don't be modest. I chatted with Crag Burst a couple of days ago. He said that you can be totally considered a powerful B-rank ability, user with that devil ray by your side. And don't forget your heaven-defying pure sensing ability. Your current position in the Xia City branch is right behind old man you from back in the day. He, old man, you didn't have two extraordinaries looking out for him back then like you. Really, I've done things quite well. Xiu Lei rolled his eyes. How about we stop acting cute? Or do you want me to praise you from the very beginning? Fine, I'll speak the truth. I especially agree with Cragburst's words. Your pure sensing ability is absolutely heaven-defying. I hear that Cat Eyes simply changed the direction of her ability just because of you. She plans on focusing on long-range perception. She's giving up on all-encompassing perception. There's even this. This was the first time Luo Nan heard of these things. He blushed with great embarrassment for a time. Cat Eyes was one of his believers in a certain sense, but this had been an accident from start to finish. She wasn't even willing, and her heart was unreconciled. Luo Nan wasn't Tyrant Nan. He wouldn't force himself upon her. Instead, he deliberately kept some distance from her. But now it looked like the distance was pulled a bit too close. Fine, Luo Nan kept some distance from practically everybody. He had the hexia, and communicating on the psychic wave network was awfully convenient. Xiu Lei entered the society a month later than him, yet he was able to chat and gossip about all sorts of stuff. In comparison, Luo Nan practically lived under a rock, so no information reached him. It's all about the temperament, the temperament. Xiu Lei didn't know of Luo Nan's current emotional regrets. He continued, when we chat, I find myself suspecting that your ability is still in an explosive growth period. Your numbers are different for every operation. Sister Yingying said that your soul-attached state had an upper limit of 500 meters during the time at Frost River Reality. When your body and soul are merged, the radius of your sensing limits is 80 meters. But last time at Ocean Sky Cloud City, I was on the 88th floor and you were on the viewing platform, the 142nd floor. There were around 62 floors between us. That's nearly 300 meters. Your body and soul should have been merged at that time too. Luo Nan laughed. The benefits of following the Gym Master in cultivation is shown here. Xiu Lei was delighted to hear these words. His smile was so large that his eyes disappeared. So Luo Nan, there's nothing to worry about. There's no need to be anxious. In the entirety of Xia City, aside from the two extraordinaries, when it comes to individual people with all-encompassing sensing, there is no one who can compare to you. These words were quite familiar to his ears. Luo Nan suddenly asked, did Yingying seek you out to be a solicitor? Xiu Lei's grinning mouth froze in place before gathering into a fawning laugh. I just feel that Sister Yingying's words make a lot of sense. I think so too. Xiu Lei gave Luo Nan a thumbs up, only to turn it upside down to give Luo Nan two fierce stabs. Chapter 355, Little Monkey. Translator, Strivon. Luo Nan chatted quite happily. Most of their words were said in jest, after all. His consciousness hung upon Ink's body. They were still in a meeting over yonder, which was not surprising. There was merely the addition of a meal. Peony and Long Seven behaved very professionally, and Ink took the opportunity to show off an important element to his enormous body. This crow ate nearly the same amount of food as a man. After the meal, the party of people had another meeting on the roadside. Ink stood very steadily atop the roof of the ordinary SUV, its roof rack perfectly matching with Ink's thick claws. It was just that Ink's head hung down. It had already entered a half-sleepy, yet awake state. The bird had been quiet and calm for a long period of time, and it was affected by digestion. This used up a considerable amount of the bird's physical and mental energy. Acting like this was against its nature as well. So ink shivered and made two loud caws the moment Luo Nan's telepathic mind cut through. It flapped its wings to fly without the slightest hesitation. In the blink of an eye, it soared under the lofty skies lit by the glow of the sun. Ink's pitch-black feathers felt refreshed under the rays of the sun. Trembling in the wind, they were suffused with a luster of dark indigo. It looked quite dazzling. The exceptional contrast of shadow and light fused together, causing Intelligence Officer Axel Thew to click his tongue in wonder. He couldn't hold back from voicing his suspicions with a tone of teasing. This crow is mighty and imposing, and it understands human nature. It can be considered an excellent beast. Ink flapped its wings after Axel Thew's voice fell, turning directions. It flew far away, soon vanishing into the distance. Axel Thew blurted out, He put a hand to his forehead as he looked into the skies. What happened? Peony didn't even raise her head. You can ignore it. Ink spiraled in the skies for a while and found its target. It changed its direction slightly and soon arrived above the old road that went through and out the city. It followed the road as it flew ahead. Seizing the initiative did not necessarily require him to immediately go boss around the members of the action team. Such heavy actions were shameful, and Luo Nan was unable to do it. His many years of experimenting on his body had forced him to develop a cautious personality. As long as his head didn't run feverish, he didn't mind collecting extra information and material to be used for making decisions. The action team was doing such matters, but unfortunately, the field was far too different from Luo Nan's expertise. He couldn't be useful. Luckily, Zhang Yingying had urged him on from many different sides, letting him see the truth in time. Otherwise, he would have continued to follow behind the behinds of the action team, only to waste his time in the end. Of course, before he could begin with anything, Luo Nan first had to test for the upper and lower bounds of Ink's abilities, especially Ink's range of perception. This gluttonous fellow must not fail to meet his expectations. Luo Nan had experienced 3 different circumstances that affected his mental senses: the out-of-body state, the merged body and soul, and using his believers as fulcrums. The discrepancy between the range of his senses during these states were distinguished by orders of magnitude. Using as basis his out-of-body state, where his senses could reach a range of 20 kilometers, the normal merged body and soul state would have a limit of 2 kilometers. Following this, using Ink, one of his believers, as a fulcrum should yield a limit of around 200 kilometers. If Luo Nan deliberately augmented Ink, then this limit could be increased even further. However, Luo Nan already learned from his prior experiences that Ink, with its brain capacity, was unable to handle information that was too complicated. Packet loss and dropped frames were common occurrences. A period of time was needed to adapt as well. Honestly speaking, Luo Nan should have done this work a couple of days ago. But Luo Nan had far too many things to attend to that he completely forgot. He pushed this back until today. Then let's measure the lower limit. When things came to pass in reality, the situation that occurred was a bit unexpected. Where was the packet loss? Something like high-speed magnetic rails had opened up between Luo Nan's main body and Ink. No switching was required to transmit the information. The information just went straight to the destination. No, actually, there didn't even seem to be the process of transmission. The distance of space was warped for some bizarre reason. This feeling was odd, yet familiar. Luo Nan spent a bit of time in recollection, and barely remembered that something similar had happened back at Frost River Reality. He had formed the Star River from the life sketches, and he had used this method to pull the Wraith sign to him. The Wraith sign had evolved into a colosseum to slaughter the human-faced arachnid raised by the Order of Justice. The Wraith sign was a darksider life form. After all, it was an existence belonging to the mental plane. It made sense that he was able to summon it. But Ink possessed a material body. The circumstances were very different, yet the effects were reflected in the transmission of information. In any case, with the existence of this connection, the only element left that could restrict Ink's sensing ability was the limits to what its body could endure. This made things a lot easier. Ink had been the test subject Luo Nan most commonly experimented with during the period of time when he was doing experiments over and over. There was naturally quite some magic to Ink for it to be able to live smoothly and steadily until now. And it had already stepped to the next level in Luo Nan's formatting theory system. It was on the office worker level. The connection between Ink and Luo Nan was even more inseparably close. This further catalyzed its underlying abilities. Luo Nan was eager to start testing. Ink turned into a streak of shadow as it flitted past the buildings on the sides of the old road. Luo Nan felt like Ink was as a scout in a strategy game. The fog of war was peeled away everywhere Ink passed, revealing a path that was a couple 100 meters wide. But the scene revealed in reality was desolate. There was something more luminous to the eyes. It was the drifting and changing Star River. Luo Nan didn't have any definite thoughts of doing anything. He was just displaying his personal strength. After all, his personal strength had pushed Cat Eyes into changing her development path from long-range perception to all-encompassing perception. Just based off this, Luo Nan felt that using the life sketches to build the starry sky was the best thing to do right now. Luo Nan opened up a small piece of the starry sky, using Ink as the core. This piece resonated with the vast and hazy star river of his main body's senses, covering the existence of all living beings within. For fear of incompleteness of his clairvoyance, Luo Nan sincerely scanned every set of stars, not wishing to overlook any detail. Peony didn't contact him during this time, and since things remained as such, Luo Nan continued to scan down the road at a speed of around 80 kilometers per hour. Luo Nan scanned for half the afternoon. The school society's activity time was about to begin. Luo Nan reckoned that Ink had nearly flown all the way back to the main city district, yet he was unable to reap any gains. Luo Nan began to become aware of the difficulty of this work. He didn't have a clear direction, so he could only continue scanning until the end. A scan radius of 300 meters was already at the peak of Xia City. But with how big Xia City was with its city center and its outskirts districts, this method of his was far too stupid. Ink's sensing radius is too small. Should I switch bodies and come? It happened right when he was mulling over this matter. A special response flickered within his senses, coming out of nowhere. Luo Nan was elated. He didn't care whether it was the target or not. His attention instantly focused over. Under the starry sky formed from life sketches, a dot of light fell down, marking a spot on the star atlas. The surrounding scenery reified in layers, revealing the concrete setting. Luo Nan sighed when he saw the view. He felt very disappointed. This should be the recycling stratum of the Forest Wall district, and a stream of people was gathered in this area. The target that Luo Nan had found was not a mutant. It was a middle-aged man. He wore quite a particular set of robes, looking a bit like Fairchild. The pale gray color gave off a plain appearance. The middle-aged man was located in an enclosed house. It wasn't a large house, but its arrangements gave off a brimming feeling of ceremonies. The man stood at the front of the stage, reading text to others in the room, acting like a priest. Luo Nan had acted far too hastily with his gaze. He was too close to the material plane, and the motion triggered was a bit large. The middle-aged man seemed to detect it, his head leaning slightly in a bit of confusion. Such a scene immediately caused Luo Nan to think of secret orders. This place truly appeared to be a religious location. Yes, it turned out that the middle-aged man was an ability user. The number of ability users in Xia City, with its explorers society, orders, government, military, as well as various financial groups, didn't even add up to 2,000 people. Their numbers weren't large nor small. Luo Nan's luck must be good to just randomly bump into one. Or was his luck bad? Also, the difference between ability users and normal people was great when it came to the levels of their life sketches. "Aw man, I'm really such an idiot." Back at school, Luo Nan smacked his forehead. Ink, who was flying in the air, had its wings nearly cramp up. Luckily, it recovered amidst a fall, fiercely flapping its wings to restore altitude. Nothing had come to mind for a whole afternoon. The life sketches of ability users were special, and those of mutants were naturally far different. This was an obvious fact. He had obtained similar verdicts in the past, but today he actually wasted a whole afternoon. Luo Nan was sick of his own head. It was Luo Nan's own fault for stumbling across someone else's sermon, and Luo Nan was unwilling to cause side issues to arise. But he subconsciously performed another scan the moment he sought to cancel his focus, and he felt a sense of familiarity for some unknown reason. He concentrated his mind once more, and he saw someone familiar. Yes, this one was a bit familiar-looking. He saw him today. It was the kid who jumped out in front of the action team members back at the reservoir in the morning. The kid wanted them to go after the gangs in the region. This kid appeared to be 6 years old at most. He was mixed with the adults in the room, appearing rather conspicuous. He can't actually be here to take lessons. Xia City's traditional political power was quite strong. When it came to religious faith, minors had to step back while adults had the freedom of choice. A little kid running over from far away to listen to a priest's sermon was very unconventional, even if his parents were accompanying him. The thought just churned, and Luo Nan didn't think deeper. It had nothing to do with him after all. But Luo Nan had a sudden realization when he saw the kid. It seemed that he had flown a bit too far, a route of an hour or so. He wouldn't be able to coordinate with Peony if something were to happen. He decided to go back the way he came. At the same time, this priest of an unknown sect called an end to today's session, perhaps because his mind was uneasy. The group of people left the room in an orderly fashion. The kid made his way outside, wrapped within the crowd of people. He righted an electric scooter on the roadside and rode it down the old road to the west. He's by himself. Luo Nan discovered this irrationality. Plus, it was obvious that the electric scooter the kid rode had been modified. Using ink speed as a reference, the scooter's speed was absolutely going over 50 kilometers per hour. This speed, on a simple structure that was completely open, was simply as fast as lightning. Watching, Luo Nan broke out in a cold sweat for him. There weren't many cars on this abandoned old road, but that was because not many dared to. Those who often went on this road had connections to gangs. They charged and shoved through, seeking stimulation. What the heck are the kids' parents doing? Luo Nan thought for a while. They were going on the same route in any case. He might as well follow the kid. It was better to be safe than sorry. His mind wouldn't be at peace if something truly did happen. Ink flew in the skies above, the kid completely unaware of it. He stood on the scooter, holding onto the handlebars. He looked quite free-soaring at high speeds. He did some fancy zigzags when he met slopes, moving around as agilely as a monkey. His sense of balance was truly formidable, enough to engender admiration in Luo Nan. Well, I'll just call you Little Monkey, then. Chapter 356, Receptacle, Nature and Trigger, Part 1-3. Translator, Strivon. The little monkey was quite young, yet he was already a super enthusiast of this old road. He simply drove this plain and crude electric scooter to the same effect of driving a large horsepower motorbike. Luo Nan followed the kid closely for some time and made sure that this fellow didn't encounter any problems. He finally pulled his eyes off the kid to go research his own matters. He switched clairvoyance modes. The deep, starry sky unfurled with starlight, but all he did was check for special structures within it. Of course, a dark cloud large enough to cover the starry sky would certainly be a big fish. Currently, the enormous population of Xia City exhibited its astonishing effects to Luo Nan. There were 2,000 ability users and 200 million people in the city. The ratio was 100,000 to 1. To pick an ability user or a mutant out of all these people was certainly not an easy task, especially using Ink with his clairvoyance radius of 200 meters. Even though Luo Nan was able to shame cat eyes, a professional, this range was not enough in the face of this modern metropolis. Plus, the stars, be they many or few, roamed around the spread left and right, top to bottom. Their structures were ordinary and normal, containing universal similarities. Normal people were the overwhelming majority. No matter how splendid the stars, one would become dizzy when looking at them for too long. The vast and hazy star atlas, the complicated structures, were like a labyrinth. Prolonged contact would cause fear. Luo Nan really wanted to shut his eyes and look away, but he thought about how the targets were alive, how the targets could move at will, and how the star atlas was constantly changing. He could only grit his teeth in perseverance, but he felt something after an unknown amount of time passed. Perhaps it was because of how long he looked at the star atlas, but there existed a different power within the star atlas, existing as a faint glimmer. It might be a misconception on his part. At the very least, there were some special characters that showed up below when he watched the little monkey, but they lacked a clear distinction from other people. Ink took half an hour to fly back to the origin point, due to having to follow the little monkey's speed. The exploration on Peony's side had already come to an end. They had returned to the inhabited area from before. They were staggered apart, and Luo Nan could only go looking for them. He continued along the same route as the little monkey. Luckily, nothing bad happened as the kid returned to the inhabited area. The little monkey soon met up with his companions at some empty area, and he immediately joined them in playing children battles. Ink spiraled in the skies above, taking in the entire scene below. In the background, Luo Nan felt a little suspicious. It was hard to tell the ages of these kids, but they should be 5 years and older. Luo Nan was in educational institutions at this age, and he never had the chance to be this wild. It was very popular for kids to be enrolled in early education nowadays. This was of universal importance to the parents. Practically no kid could avoid it. However, the inhabited area was a place existing outside of the conventional world. This wildness and freedom were not at all the style of the citizens of the metropolis. Talk of vagrants naturalizing into society wasn't a baseless claim. Luo Nan looked at it from a different perspective. After the little monkey had joined his companions, the subtle feeling of discrepancy grew larger upon the star atlas. However, it still wasn't clear enough. Luo Nan simply let Ink find a place with vegetation, and Ink stopped atop the branch of a tree, allowing Luo Nan to observe at close range. He looked down below, casting a net as far as the eye could see. Luo Nan was scared of missing something, so he locked onto a limited number of targets. He watched, searching for any patterns or clues. He prepared to draw meticulous life sketches of the little kid and his companions to further search for discrepancies. He had just clarified his direction of action when Ink was discovered by these kids. They sure possessed great eyes. "It's that large bird from this morning." Luo Nan didn't know who blurted the words out, but the words caused the group to surround and stare intensely at Ink. There were even little devils throwing rocks, wishing to hit Ink. This action immediately drew the reprimand from the others. "Don't be hasty. There's a gun that can shoot nets in my dad's car. We can capture the bird alive and sell it the gang later. We can get a high price." That little F ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** He didn't utter a sound, and this somewhat comforted Luo Nan. At least this kid isn't an ingrate. I didn't watch after you in vain. But in any case, a little monkey could never prevail against a dozen of brats. Luo Nan wasn't willing to become someone's target practice, so he immediately had ink flap its wings and fly away. The group of kids grew anxious upon seeing this. They already took ink to be food upon a plate. They saw this broiled duck fly, and they found its departure hard to accept. They shouted and screamed as they threw stones like hail. It was all absolutely useless, however. The kid who offered to grab the net-shooting gun moved quickly. His dad's car was by the road. The kid opened the trunk and took out the net gun. He took aim and was about to pull the trigger, but for some unknown reason, his mind suddenly went blank, and he lost control of his legs. The earth became like the waves of the sea. It rippled back and forth. The trigger was pulled, but the muzzle was aimed at God knows where. Earthquake, it's an earthquake. The frequency of earthquakes in Xia City had somewhat dropped in the recent month, but people were still very familiar with this sensation. The people staying in the inhabited area were extremely sensitive because their housing structures had issues with their durability. The sensation right now was quite intense. Some kids' legs went weak, causing them to fall to the ground. There were some adults at the side of the road watching the bustling kids. They were confused by their shouts, but they were even more baffled. Earthquake, I don't feel an earthquake. Of course, they didn't feel it. This was because Luo Nan had unleashed an attack on the mental plane through ink. The target was none other than the group of kids. The intensity was very subtle. It wouldn't hurt anybody. It just caused one's reactions to be sluggish for a while, causing their minds to be dazed. Ink flew high into the sky. A feather dropped to the ground, and the curtain to today's search operation had dropped as well. But the plan he had in his mind of seizing the initiative and amazing the world with a brilliant feat had ultimately failed to fall into reality. It was hard to do work that was valued at millions and millions, even if it was in the form of compensation. Luo Nan had gone from passiveness to activeness over the course of an entire fruitless day, his experience that of an ebbing tide. In the end, he realized that there were many matters in this world that could not be resolved in a single spurt of energy. His mood subconsciously became much calmer. From his perspective, the search for the mutants wasn't a particularly pressing matter. It was the entire day he squandered with the vast and hazy starry sky. It was clear yet not clear, and he had no sense of where to begin. Luo Nan had things quite difficult. Thus, Luo Nan came to realize that he placed more importance on formatting theory, on his cultivations. When night fell, Luo Nan simply tossed ink over to Peony. He also didn't have the mood to go peeping on secrets and the like. Instead, he and Zhu Lei went to the Divine Yu Gym in the Boshan building. Gym Master Xiu was reportedly moving his gym these days. Luo Nan believed that the gym was completely desolate, but he never expected to see the entrance to the front courtyard to be brightly lit, and there to be a bunch of people present. Those were the parents of the students. They were waiting outside the practice grounds of the front courtyard. Luo Nan was baffled. I thought he stopped classes. This is the last class. The gym master feels that Class 5's progress in their fundamentals just so happen get stuck at a node. He wants to teach them for a few more days. It can be considered destiny if at least one could become enlightened. The courses have all been free over the past few days. Oh, this was what the Gym Master Xiu could achieve. The course was pretty much over when Zhu Lei and Luo Nan had arrived. Luo Nan followed Zhu Lei's intentions and simply entered the training ground, where they saw Gym Master Xiu. Luo Nan was simply stupefied by the entrance to the grounds. Chapter 357, Receptacle, Nature and Trigger, Part 2-3. Translator, Strivon. Zhu Shenyu was quite different than how he normally was when he was instructing children. He was completely different. The cold and gloomy expression that Luo Nan was oh so familiar with had flown off to God knows where. What Luo Nan saw was a middle-aged elementary school teacher with a gentle and smiling face. His four limbs were touching the ground, his body bent into a crawl. With his figure extended out and his spine swaying, he looked like a giant lazy cat. The group of 7- and 8-year-olds were copying him. They meowed and purred in delight, and they even spontaneously discovered new skills. They flipped, rolled, pounced, and turned. They were very lively. Luo Nan really was stupefied. Zhu Lei felt that he had to explain things. He coughed. This is the cat form that the gym master uses specifically to establish the children's foundations. You may be able to see the dog form in the future as well. This is the path of beast form mimicry. You know, there are two animals that kids are quite familiar with in the city. It's easier for them to refer to these animals. Oh, really? Luo Nan was still a little dazed. Zhu Lei understood what Luo Nan was thinking. He said, the gym master has always been very nice to children. Thinking back to the days when I attended the basic classes, it was a solid education with a long-term influence. But when I switched to the specialty classes and was taught personally by the gym master, man, oh man, he cherished the memory, yet he also grimaced in pain, his emotions complex. Zhu Shenyu saw them and acted very calmly. They couldn't tell if Zhu Shenyu was anxious at all about his form collapsing. Zhu Shenyu remained on the ground, guiding the children to crawl around in a circle. He had the children spread their limbs and move their joints. He even reminded them to control their breathing. The scene could be described as order within chaos. Control was present from beginning to end. They practiced all the way around the grounds before Xiu Shenyu stood up, beckoning Luo Nan and Zhu Lei to come over. The children still had reign over the grounds as they wildly played. Practiced. Luo Nan and Zhu Lei carefully made their way around the group of overly energetic little fellows and stood by Xiu Shenyu's side. They looked at Xiu Shenyu, and this time Gym Master Xiu had donned on his usual dull expression. It was as if his languid, relaxed, and casual expression was just a dream. Luo Nan wasn't stupid enough to ask about this change. He just obediently reported his recent cultivation progress. Xiu Shenyu asked a few details, confirming that Luo Nan really did make progress in his cultivation. He didn't appear surprised by it, just nodding his head. In the end, he asked, "You have finished cultivating in the eye's orifice. Your pace is fast, and your foundation is strong. You can be considered talented. Continue cultivating down the path of 9 orifices, 6 roots. You don't have to rigidly adhere to the order. You should try all of them. Try all of them. You will only know the reason when you try them yourself." Xiu Shenyu didn't believe there was much to say about this matter. He spoke a single sentence and changed to an item that he felt was far more important. Begin from the 6 roots and 9 orifices. Perceive all around. Worldly thoughts are like the tide, very dangerous toward cultivators. Therefore, true knowledge and clear experiences are of the utmost importance. Know yourself and call the truth. Know people and call the light. Knowing people and knowing yourself must be done equally. Luo Nan could only understand half of it, but hearing Xiu Shenyu talking about knowing people, he was reminded of today's squandered afternoon. He couldn't help asking, "There seems to be thousands upon thousands of different types of people in this world, but when it comes to the level of life, they are like a myriad of streams converging in a single channel. The differences are extremely small. There are many places that are specious. How does one distinguish between them all?" Xiu Shenyu glanced at him and gave a gentle nod. There was praise contained within his actions, similar to when Luo Nan narrated his extraordinary progress in cultivation. He said, "We, as cultivators, start from 3 places when it comes to knowing the self and knowing people: the root receptacle, the root nature, and the root trigger. These 3, whether they be in teaching others or in self-cultivation, must all be seen clearly. The root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger." Luo Nan was stupefied. "These are Buddhist terms. I've borrowed them, but in doing so I've slightly alienated the words. It's more of a metaphor. In your terms, the so-called root and its development is a person's basic order frame." Xiu Shenyu's explanation of things thus far was understandable to Luo Nan. As for the differences between the 3, something material can be the receptacle, therefore possessing a volume of storage. Let good and evil be the nature, distinguishing direction. And the appropriate action can be the trigger, the reception of the power of fate. Simply speaking, when looking at their cultivation prospects, one must look at their natural endowments, which can divide it into talent, nature, and chance. These key factors must be totally clear before a person can choose the best path, and the best person be chosen for a path. Luo Nan believed that not only was Xiu Shenyu teaching him how to cultivate, he was also elucidating on the teachings themselves. As a teacher, These words were undoubtedly plucked from his heart. In any case, Luo Nan and Xiu Lei both perked their ears to listen in careful detail. As the classic literature saith, Taoism requires one to be affluent, while Buddhism requires only the self to achieve enlightenment. I won't mention the controversies within. The schools of thought are different, and the disciples they take in have differences as well. This is clear and easy to see. Most of these differences come from the root receptacle, the root nature, and the root trigger. The principles can easily be understood, but to distinguish them in practice, this is the important point. Xiu Lei, don't listen to what I'm about to say. Your root receptacle is thick, your root nature is simple, but your root trigger is far from starting. What you need are pure ideas. You won't obtain any benefits from learning the techniques to distinguish between these powers. Xiu Lei cowered, and he obediently walked into the distance to go act as a temporary instructor for the children. Luo Nan believed he understood. Xiu Shenyu was actually using Xiu Lei as a living example, displaying how to subdivide between the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger. The effects were excellent. Luo Nan already constructed a bit of a spectrum in mind. Listen carefully. Xiu Shenyu reminded Luo Nan once more, before teaching him how to discern between the different paths of receptacle, nature, and trigger. Luo Nan was merely learning some guiding principles right now. It was still very early for him to get started. But just these few principles were superb enough in themselves, especially the level of enlightenment needed to distinguish them. They pointed directly at the most mysterious and profound level of the human body and mind. It was likely that these principles could deal with some of the issues Luo Nan had with formatting theory, especially with what happened this afternoon. Luo Nan felt his soul's strength stirring. He tweaked his ears and scratched his cheeks for a time, wishing to immediately return to the inhabited area of Trigate District. He wanted to keep a close eye on the little monkey and those wild little devils, and carefully examine them again. Unfortunately, this was something impossible to do tonight. It was rare for Xiu Shenyu to give advice with such earnestness. He needed to have Luo Nan understand the mysteries within. With this discussion of this power, tonight I've imparted on you the path. First, know your mind and nature. Think it over a lot and delve into studying. Know that your foundation for tolerance is thick and heavy. You can bear it. Since you've asked on your own accord, it seems that you have a direction. You should have encountered corresponding problems at a very appropriate time. Receptacle, nature, and trigger. Combining these three will be akin to spring returning to Earth and the awakening of countless living beings. Growth will naturally occur, and though its character is soft, its nature is firm. The results should be decent. Luo Nan nodded in earnest. Right now, he understood a little about the true meaning of the phrase, "If a man in the morning hears the right way, he may die in the evening without regret." Of course, death was a huge exaggeration. It would be best if he could immediately do some testing for verification. Xiu Shenyu was certainly able to infer some things by looking at Luo Nan, but he had to crush Luo Nan's urges and impulses. He continued speaking, "I'll reiterate your memories when it comes to the orifices, and I'll clarify the 6 roots once more. This is a technique where you must know yourself with absolute clarity. You need to combine this technique with the technique of subdivision I just mentioned. You must contemplate time and time again. You must polish yourself every day. And you must continue to cultivate. You need to quell yourself to tranquility, for you must not advance prematurely. Chapter 358, Receptacle, Nature and Trigger, Part 3-3. Translator, Strivon. Xiu Lei acted like a large cat for a while before coming over. He just so happened to catch some of Xiu Shenyu's words and was very surprised by them. Gym Master, Luo Nan just opened an orifice and you're teaching him this much stuff. He may not be able to digest it all. This may have been the case in the past, but there aren't any problems now. The cultivation of the 9 orifices and 6 roots is the sole truth when it comes to the dual cultivation of life and nature. He has made further progress in cultivating nature, so that trend of imbalance still exists. It isn't a mistake to forge forward bravely in cultivating life. In layman's terms, nature was the cultivation of the mind, while life was the efforts of the fleshly body. Luo Nan was able to understand the Gym Master's words, but what did he mean about him making further progress in cultivating nature? It seemed to have nothing to do with his progress in the eye's orifice, with the technique of subdivision between the receptacle, nature, and trigger to lay the foundation. Luo Nan had absolute certainty in Gym Master Xiu's insight. Luo Nan's thoughts turned to a different path as he subconsciously recalled the special experience at Gia in the early morning. He became lost in thought. Then suddenly his mind went on alert. Someone's hand came probing over and Luo Nan tried to slip away, but it was ultimately useless. Gym Master Xiu had his hand on his shoulder, exerting subtle force, indicating that he should change his stance. Crouching tiger. Luo Nan hesitated for a moment before obediently kneeling to the ground. He extended his back forward and over his elbows, and his legs naturally curled up. He turned to a different sort of large cat, a sleeping large cat. This movement belonged to the Tao Yin techniques he learned before. He could do it without any difficulty, and the many days of practice had imprinted this movement into his consciousness. He naturally did the true breathing corresponding to this stance. He was like a fierce tiger in its lair, seemingly tense, yet not, seemingly lax, yet not. Within the languidness seeped the tension of the kind of beasts. Within a marvelous equilibrium, looseness and tightness cycled back and forth everywhere in the body and mind. Xiu Shenyu squatted down and gently pressed against Luo Nan's forehead. He opened his mouth and spoke. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan was unable to hear what he was saying at first. He just felt something strange. The sound waves didn't seem to be transmitting through the air. Instead, they followed Xiu Shenyu's palm and seeped into his skull, rumbling like thunder. The sound of thunder entered Luo Nan's brain, stimulating the latent orifice on the forehead into vibrating. This feeling then spread to the rest of his body. The thunder and vibration pressed forward layer by layer, causing the body gear to shake as its internal links were subdivided. 9 orifices, the internal organs, and 12 nodes all resonated in earnest. The 6 roots of the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and thought suddenly knew their places. Only now was Luo Nan able to distinguish Xiu Shenyu's words clearly. And thanks to the experience brought about by the sound of thunder, the new knowledge had become a validated experience. It was tantamount to a synchronized memory between the body and the mind. And so his body gear constantly turned, and his God gear answered. Coupling made these 2 gears move evenly, endless amending the details. Luo Nan gradually disregarded Xiu Shenyu's voice, as he cast his full mind to the delicate adjustments of the frame of body and soul. He looked at how blood, energy, and other fluids circulated and transformed among the inner organs, layer by layer. It was akin to water flowing within the mountains. The water flowed above ground and below ground, circulating between and within mud, dirt, and stone. Luo Nan watched until a certain degree, and his intent stirred. He felt the vital energy boil in his heart, chest, and spleen. The blood and energy circulated upward to reach the face of the head. Then it took a slight turn, and suddenly Luo Nan had a mouth full of saliva. It was sweet and moist, like drinking nectar. With further clarification from Xiu Shenyu, Luo Nan was clear on the direction of his next step. The orifice of the heart opens from the tongue, and the spleen has an orifice via the mouth. Though the mouth and the tongue are distinguished, they are in fact one orifice. And in classical theory, there are talks of the heart and spleen being two sides of the same coin. Luo Nan had simultaneously opened up two systems of inner organs. The heart and the spleen. It looked like there was some truth to this. Before formatting theory had truly formed within Luo Nan, he had developed the appetite king skill first. His digestion was like a great valley of water, providing his body with sufficient energy. The spleen and the stomach gained this ability, and ever since he started practicing martial arts from Xiu Shenyu, his body became robust with blood and energy. His heart truly was the master of his blood, and it worked quite nicely with the drainage of the energy of his liver. There was a saying, "Fire is born from wood, and earth is born from fire." So the liver, heart, and spleen were three sets of systems that were connected to each other. Whether it be the circulation of blood and energy, or the interpromotion and interrestraint between the five elements, all of it made sense. Luo Nan didn't delve any deeper into this. He paid more attention to the experience of the body gear's operation. But he also felt as if a pool of nectar had been opened up with the root of the mouth and the tongue. The liquid constantly spilled over, sweet and juicy. There was also the heart and the spleen, which utilized the mechanism of the inner organs to transform breath into internal energy. Life essence became abundant and solid, and vital energy went into a boil with just an instant of heat and refinement. The vital energy spread everywhere to the tendons and muscles, causing Luo Nan to break out with a layer of sweat in the blink of an eye. His blood and energy flowed smoothly. This method should be quite decent. Luo Nan maintained Crouching Tiger for quite some time. Some of the children on the training grounds looked at Luo Nan with interest. They believed that he was like them, crawling over with meows and purrs. Zhu Lei was given a scare. He wanted to stop the children, but he was stopped by Xiu Shenyu instead. One of the children didn't understand the seriousness of the situation, simply bumping into Luo Nan. Luo Nan remained in that state of subtle experience. He did not move an inch, but his body was soft and flexible, as if it possessed no bones at all. He didn't feel even an ounce of pain when the child bumped into him. The child rubbed and pressed against Luo Nan in fun and delight, and quite a few other children followed suit. They laughed as they gathered over, taking Luo Nan to be a large pillow. They pressed and bumped against him, not slowing at all. If Luo Nan could truly maintain his experience, then he would have been divine. He made a low growl as he extended his body. He was like a sleeping tiger who was startled awake. With this stretch, the skin and flesh naturally rippled with force. Latent energy bubbled forth, and the surrounding children fell to the ground, yet not a single one was injured. Luo Nan saw that the ground was full of laughing children. His childish heart reverberated, and he rolled like a cat or tiger, spreading his four limbs out and stretching his muscles and tendons, appearing very lively. The group of children were excited that someone had come to play, They jumped over screaming. Zhu Shenyu finally called out for them to stop. Under the impulse of the appropriate trigger, Luo Nan had a flash of insight. However, since his foundation was not firm, there was a chance of an accidental danger occurring if he were to continue playing around. As Zhu Shenyu waited for Luo Nan to stand up, he turned to Zhu Lei and said, "His tendons and muscles have been nourished. From today forth, he can train in punching techniques. From tomorrow forth, you two will spar." "Sparring so soon? Does he have time to go learn punching techniques at his leisure?" Zhu Shenyu's lips were angled with a hint of sarcasm. "In any case, it's for him to adapt to his new physique and to practice his reactions. It's fine to just teach him a few random moves. His ambitions lie elsewhere, after all." Zhu Lei watched Luo Nan, who scratched his head and said, "The Gym Master is amazing." From Luo Nan's perspective, his cultivation progress was reflected upon his fleshly body, upon the operation of the body gear. But for him to describe it in completion was not an easy task. After all, there were far too many specious things within the classical theories. He only had a smattering of knowledge. There were many concepts that he seemed to understand but really didn't. Most of it was given to him by instinct, the memory of his body. Tonight, what truly touched upon his soul was a different set of knowledge that Gym Master Xiu imparted. It was his words on the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger. This set of knowledge was like a clear border and outline being laid down. It made his mind feel a lot clearer. It was little bit like... it was like the feeling he got when he drew. When Luo Nan first learned how to draw, how to make quick sketches, he instantly knew how to utilize composition, lines, light and shadow, and other methods to draw figures that were true to life. He felt like he could draw the entire world. Of course, the facts later taught him how to be a man. But this whole new realm that he just accessed, this clear feeling of a realization of talent, was the most beautiful illusion of this world. If this could touch upon reality, this feeling would become much more alive. Reality, perhaps it was there. Chapter 359, Sibling Seizure, Part 1-3. Translator, Strivon. Gym Master Xiu's lessons weren't long. He stated that he had already taught the things that should be taught in the near future. All that was left was for Luo Nan to experience things for himself. Luo Nan wasn't in a hurry to leave. He and Zhu Lei sent off the students of Basic Class 5 before heading to the back courtyard. They helped Gym Master Xiu clean up and pack boxes, only leaving the Jiaoguan at around 9. Luo Nan and Zhu Lei parted ways at the underground parking lot in Boshan Building. Luo Nan got into a security car dispatched by the society, and he saw that the driver of the car was the same as last night's. He recalled that the driver's last name was Qin, but he wasn't too certain. Neither of them were very talkative people. They just nodded as greeting when they saw each other. Luo Nan sat shotgun, leaning back against the seat. As the car sped along the highway, Luo Nan minded his own business, closing his eyes in thought. Right now, 3 systems of inner organs, the heart, liver and spleen, were driving the rise and fall of the blood and energy in Luo Nan's entire body. Blood and energy soaked everything in his body. They soaked his muscles, bones, tendons, and so on. The blood and energy traversed up to the face, where the eye's orifice was like a lantern, and the orifice of the mouth and tongue was like a pond of nectar. Blood and energy naturally spun. It was marvelous and outstanding. However, Luo Nan had few stirrings when it came to the mysterious changes occurring in his body. As of now, His mind was completely focused on the knowledge of the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger. His thoughts flickered unstably, occurring again and again. Then came a flash of insight. It seemed to mix with the dazzling starry sky of this afternoon. It drew out a whole new composition, but it shattered in the blink of an eye, causing Luo Nan to be excited yet frustrated. Stop, 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 stop. Gym Master Xiu had said it already. This sort of subdivision technique of insight absolutely could not be done in a fantasizing, guessing way. He needed to start from a realistic point. The best thing to do was to mix the internal and the external. That is, to see clearly the self and no others. Gradually become familiar with them and find an assessing principle of logic most suitable for himself. These ideas faintly fit into the concepts of formatting theory that only belonged to Luo Nan. They lay well within Luo Nan's liking, and they made him not dare approach things recklessly. So Luo Nan made a decision. He would dedicate the entire weekend to practice what he obtained this night in earnest. For this sake, he needed to push back all the plans he had for these 2 days. Luo Nan's current position in the society was not the same as it was before. There was an entire security team following him, so he had to set out early if he wanted to make last-minute changes to his schedule. This was to avoid inconvenient mishaps. He immediately contacted He Yuan. There wasn't much to hide with this matter. He simply told her that he needed to finish up and sort through what he newly obtained. He Yuan naturally supported him. Luo Nan chatted with her for a bit before hanging up the call. His mind was a little more tranquil now, and he began making simple arrangements to his schedule for tomorrow and the day after. For Saturday, he could hide in his room. He could continue familiarizing himself with lessons of the 9 orifices and 6 roots. He could also ponder over the applications of the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger. He could think them over and try things out. With the remaining time, he would continue refining the external neuron and see if he could make progress. During this period, he would allocate part of his consciousness over to ink for experimental verification. Sunday would be adjusted according to the progress made on Saturday. Such a schedule over the course of 2 days was completely packed. It was incomparably full. If everything went smoothly, he could use this to stir up rumors. He could delve into the mysteries of gear without anyone batting an eye. That would be awesome. Luo Nan was quite satisfied with his plan. He opened the loose-leaf notebook, turning to the simple schedule and made adjustments. Once everything was ready, he took a deep breath, and with a good mood, he gave the bodyguard driver next to him a smile. "It's been tiring these past few days. I'll be good and stay at home for tomorrow and the day after. I hope everyone can relax for a bit." Driver Chin wasn't good with words. He was a very steady person. Luo Nan's time at the Jaoguan was unfixed, leading Driver Chin to spend nearly an hour in the underground parking lot. However, Driver Chin remained tranquil and calm. He gave off a much more reliable feeling than old Jin of the hidden indigo firm. He just smiled toward Luo Nan, making no other responses. Right when the car was about to resume a state of silence, Luo Nan's wristband vibrated. Someone was calling him. He saw the caller ID and thought, "Now this is very odd." Mo Ya's name was clearly shown on his wristband. This older female cousin had gone to Man City for a full month, going wild at a music festival and angering her mother into exploding with fury. Aside from Luo Nan being hospitalized twice, giving quite the scare, causing Mo Ya to come back once, no news came from her most of the time. Why was she calling him now? The moment the call was connected, Moya smacked him with a question. Do you remember the favor you owe me? Don't you know that I blocked a bullet for you? Luo Nan nearly blurted this out, but in the end he merely asked, what favor? Look at your call history. September 26th, 7:18 p.m. Remember now. Forget it. In any case, you owe me a lot of favors. I won't care about this one. You just need to remember that you promised to pay me back. I want to use your apartment for a party. Luo Nan finally broke free from his insightful thoughts on the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger. He obediently swept his gaze to his call history and did his best to remember for a few seconds before finally recalling the matter. It was the night before he had truly come to understand formatting theory. Moya really did provide him with some cover, but it wasn't that useful. He was brought home the day after by his aunt. Luo Nan was disinclined to bicker about with Moya. Right, I remember now. I think you asked for a day in the middle of October. What's today's date? Oh, you didn't show up because of the music festival. Yep, for the sake of attending the music festival in Man City, Moya had set aside everything else. She was gone for the entire month, so naturally she missed all the appointments she had in Xia City. Moya snorted coldly. Aren't I arranging things now? Let me tell you, I will be back around the 5th, and there will be a celebration party on that day. Don't be nervous. This has nothing to do with you. I have a very good friend who can put things in order. You just clear out your apartment. It's been about a month since I've been there. Luo Nan grumbled a few words. This was the truth. Since October began, he was always running around between the hospital and his aunt's house. His drug synthesis equipment might have all turned to ash. He no longer needed to do drug experiments now, but his grandfather's notebook, the relevant equipment, raw materials, and so on, all needed to be properly arranged. Right, Octopus had already made some initial results on his end. He was anxiously awaiting the contents of Luo Nan's grandfather's notebook. Luo Nan should give Octopus the notebook. Luo Nan went with the flow. All right, I'll find the time to clean up. I'll talk to you later. Don't dilly-dally. Tomorrow is the weekend. Get to it. Hurry up and do it. Luo Nan nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. No way. Wow, so blunt. Monday, I'll get it done on Monday. Monday is the 5th. The 5th is Monday. Are you getting a cleanup party ready for us? I have something very important to do during the weekend. Luo Nan crushed and spat out the words, very important, trying to make Moya realize the severity of the situation. Realistically speaking, this was indeed very serious. He had given He Yuan a call, seeking to cancel all of his scheduled plans for tomorrow. With how efficient secretary he was, this matter was surely already arranged by now. If he were to turn his head and retract it, He Yuan's authority could not be maintained, let alone his reputation. If he didn't follow the plan and went to go out by himself, then things would become even more serious. It was the same as taking He Yuan's customs and crushing them beneath his feet. But it was impossible to let Moya know of this matter, let alone have her understand it. Luo Nan just felt stifled and broken. Moya went silent for a while. She spoke a few seconds later. Is it very important? An appointment. Luo Nan moaned, Sis, I'm not lying. It was right in this instant that Driver Chin gestured something to Luo Nan with his hand. Chapter 360, Sibling Seizure, Part 2-3. Translator, Strivon. Luo Nan was slightly startled. His attention deviated as he went to look, and it turned out that he didn't take the Common Commands course for nothing. He was immediately able to discern the meaning of the series of gestures. You can use the time from tonight until tomorrow's B-time slot, before handover occurs. The B-time slot spanned from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning. It was the period of time between when Luo Nan woke up and when Luo Nan started class. During this time, he would perform his morning exercises and eat breakfast. Driver Chin's intentions were very clear. He was suggesting that Luo Nan use this time period to handle the matter. In any case, from night until morning, it was their team on shift. It was easy for them to do a last-minute change in tasking. Luo Nan's mind stirred. Tomorrow morning was unacceptable. His aunt's house was located on the eastern side of the Trigate District. He would have to go through half of Xia City to get to the River Wu District from there. There wasn't enough time. As for where they were currently, they haven't even left the River Wu District. They could make it to Luo Nan's apartment in 10 minutes if they changed directions right now. The drug equipment was of most importance over at the Blue Bay community. He would dump the raw materials into a portable cooler, take the cooler and his grandfather's notebook, then leave. As for cleaning up, well, screw her. Luo Nan's thoughts arrived at this point, and he switched his tone. How about this, sis? We can pick up the pace. I just so happen to be in the River Wu District. We don't need to wait until tomorrow. Right now, I will go there as fast as possible. I'll take whatever needs taking. Then you have your good friend take over from there. I'll give her an hour. Yeah, this is fine. I'll ask her. As soon as Luo Nan's thoughts started running, his mind became quite agile. He continued amending the plan. It's okay if she doesn't come over tonight. I'll change the security door to take in a secret key, which I'll give to you later. You can be the middleman, and everything will be okay. Excellent, said Moya in rarely heard praise. Though you've been to the hospital more than Acumen College, your brain capacity has seen growth. Do you know what this means? And GTFO. Luo Nan hung up the call without a trace of politeness, but it was unavoidable for him to be a bit embarrassed. He gave Driver Chin a nod and expressed his thanks. Brother Win, I owe you for today. Driver Chin laughed, speaking for the first time tonight. Then where to next? The Blue Bay community. It only took them 10 minutes, in line with Luo Nan's estimation. The security car sped into the parking lot of Blue Bay community, and Driver Chin was scrupulous in his bodyguard duties. He got off the car to walk together with Luo Nan. Accidents didn't occur too much in this world. At least tonight was very normal. 2 minutes passed, and Luo Nan returned to his small nest that he had left over a month ago. This was the only real estate property that was under his name. He had inherited it from his father, whose trail was unknown. Moya's so-called cleaning party was an exaggeration. There was an AI housekeeper keeping watch. A month had passed, and although Luo Nan didn't dare say that the apartment was untainted by even a speck of dust, he considered the place to be quite clean and tidy. There wasn't even the smell of a human. Moya called him again as he went up the stairs. Her good friend unfortunately couldn't make it, so it was fine for Luo Nan to use the secret key method he talked about before. Since things were like this, Luo Nan wasn't going to stay too long in this place. He simply walked straight to the study as soon as he entered the door. He took out the crucial items. The black suitcase atop the desk, the portable cooler in the bookcase, as well as the leather notebook hidden in the secret drawer. The drug synthesis equipment and raw materials were destined to be dealt with sooner or later. Luo Nan didn't really care, but when he saw the raw materials, he suddenly recalled that of these two items, at least half belonged to Mo Ya. It was very difficult for Luo Nan to engage in drug research, even if his grandfather had left behind educational funds as a foundation. Luo Nan had been young at the time, merely hitting 10 years old. Over the course of 5 years, Mo Ya had provided him with financial aid. This was the number one reason why was he ultimately able to persevere down this path. Mo Ya was right, he really owed her far too many favors. But he thought of today's matter. It didn't even count as a favor. When was the last time a favor was asked between this brother and sister? Luo Nan felt unbearable with the most essential problem. He was growing further and further away from his normal family life. Luo Nan chuckled. He wanted to lift up the suitcase and the cooler, but driver Chin had rushed to do it for him. His physique was healthy and heroic. He carried the 2 boxes like he was pinching 2 rice straws. "Thank you, Brother Chin." Luo Nan felt slightly embarrassed. He had tried to take the 2 items back to no avail, leaving him to rely on Brother Chin. He took the most important item of all, the leather notebook, into his hands, placing it with his loose-leaf notebook. He looked around the room, then easily covered the space with his mental senses. He confirmed that he didn't miss anything, and the 2 exited the apartment and went down the stairs. He didn't forget to set up the secret key to the door, sending Mo Ya the digital key upon generation. Sending the secret key was easy. It was done in a few minutes. They entered the elevator by the time it was done, and Luo Nan let out a breath of relief. Finally, a matter was resolved. As for what Mo Ya and her good friend would do next, it had nothing to do with him. Driver Chin maintained his silence as the elevator went down. He didn't do anything, and the space was narrow, making the atmosphere a bit awkward. Luo Nan simply thumbed through his grandfather's notebook, looking at the familiar and complex molecular formulas, as well as the handwriting that was either neatly or slovenly done. He had already gotten started with formatting theory, and he had a foundation with internal refinement. The body gear and the god gear coupled in interaction, while his soul's strength continued its violent and uncontrollable growth. His awareness toward his mind and body far exceeded that from before. He would look at the contents of this notebook later, with all these things as a foundation. Even if he would find things hard to comprehend, his level, angle, and way of thought were greatly richer than before. He could probably get a general understanding of his grandfather's thought process. It seemed like these notes were talking about how to use molecular targeting drugs to realize an activation with specific neurons. This realized self-growth and differentiation, reconstructing or strengthening neural circuits, thereby affecting the development of the body's organs and ultimately forming the self-format. But this notebook's contents were merely the records of experiments in the end. The pertinent theory was scattered and messy throughout the notebook. It was impossible to form a whole system, no matter how many times he tidied the information up. The most intact depiction of the theory was the figure and words atop the title page. Luo Nan flipped to the title page. He saw the properly hand-drawn figure and the messy handwriting. A tetrahedron, an inscribed sphere, and an outerscribed sphere formed the visualization diagram. This diagram had already fused into his soul. There was also the 20-word mantra, "My heart's a prison. My heart's a furnace. My heart calls for a lens. My heart calls for the nation." This mantra existed alongside his breathing from beginning to end. Luo Nan had reached this step, but he was still far away from reaching a true understanding of formatting theory. He was incapable of ascertaining the image and significance that formatting theory, as well as this figure and these words, that his grandfather, his mother, and that person had in their eyes. However, a thought suddenly formed in his mind. The way I currently view the world with clairvoyance is far different than how normal people view the world. It is reasonable to say that my grandfather and them should have been the same as well. It should be close, at the very least. I didn't possess this skill before. Maybe I should start from this angle and follow the contents of the notebook once more. Luo Nan squeezed the pages as he thought deeply to himself. A cough came from the person next to him, and he suddenly snapped back to reality. Only then did he discover that the elevator had stopped moving. The floor indicator light showed that they were on the underground second floor, the parking lot. The metal doors were closing straight ahead. Most importantly, there was a couple standing outside the elevator. They should have just finished with shopping, for they were carrying large and small bags of stuff. They were looking at him dazedly. Chapter 361, Sibling Seizure, Part 3-3. Translator, Strivon. Apologies. Luo Nan scrambled out. The metal doors detected the human body opening back up again. Driver Chin followed him out, still remaining silent as if nothing had happened just then. The two cautiously avoided the person, who they suspected to be mentally unwell. They rode the elevator up. In the end, Luo Nan's skin was tender. It was hard for him to avoid feeling embarrassed. He repeated his previous words, "I'm sorry, Brother Chin. I was lost in thought just now." Driver Chin responded with a smile as usual, "No worries, Mr. Luo. Are we heading back now?" "Yes, let's head back," Luo Nan said as he closed his notebook. He didn't dare to continue looking. He had all sorts of matters squeezed into a single mass. His cultivation, gear, outsourced work, security threats. Just adding researching the notebook into this was tantamount to tearing him apart into 3 pieces. He might not be able to endure it. But when he sat in the car, the silent atmosphere caused his thoughts to brew. Luo Nan was unable to stop himself. Thoughts and ideas came thick and fast, some being particularly meticulous. The words imparted to me by the Gym Master about the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger, the subdivision of talent and nature, can conform with the life sketches. The internal refinement of the 9 orifices and 6 roots is a way to polish the body. It is a way to form a more true self-portrait. The recordings within my grandfather's notebook mostly consist of targeting drugs that influence the nervous system of the human body. Maybe I should stop thinking of a unified theory and instead just make a reference. Then perhaps I will make some progress. Oh man, I can't take it any longer. What to do? Luo Nan smacked his forehead with his closed notebook. He felt both vexed and excited. Emotions surged from the bottom of his heart, each wave higher than the previous. It made him restless in his seat, as he wished to verify his own thoughts. But he didn't know where to start. This time it wasn't because he was at a loss. Instead, it was because there were far too many places he could begin at. Yes. In this moment, the radiating insight within Luo Nan's brain was like the lightning of a thunderstorm. It flashed and flared intensely within the sea of his mind, branching with hundreds of thousands of streaks. It was like the crazed dance of a golden serpent, every streak whipping out within his heart. The more he thought, the more tormented he felt. Luo Nan sat shotgun as he pressed his notebook against his head. In the end, he caved in, giving in to the impulse of his insight. He drew in a breath of cold air, flipping open the leather notebook. He was about to write something on it, but a shred of reason still remained in him. He flipped open his own notebook and found an empty page. Then he began to write at tremendous speed. The technique of subdivision. The internal refinement technique. Psychotropic drugs. Life sketches. Some of this crucial knowledge were familiar and came fluidly. Others only existed as concepts. However, they referred to each other in an overall system, and Luo Nan unconsciously formed a fuzzy, yet grand network. Everything was covered. Everything was explained. The insights came like lightning, while his writing speed was far too slow. Luo Nan's legs shook with anticipation. The writing beneath his pen was done meticulously and neatly in the beginning, but in the end, it became slovenly and without form. Many thoughts simply became simple symbols in substitution. Some were even the sketches of emotions at will. In this way, Luo Nan soon filled up 3 complete pages with his pen. He wrote until his brain was suddenly empty, and the tip of the pen could no longer drop to the page. This burst of inspiration came to a grinding halt. Perhaps he could only remember half of it, no, a third. Sweat seeped from Luo Nan's palms, back and forehead. He didn't care. He just flipped through the few pages within his notebook from front to back while reading. Some of the writings were far too illegible, but he tried to recall and decipher some of the abstractions, and he attempted to supplement them anew. It was a race between himself and time, himself and his memories. It was also a competition between himself and his most mysterious and unfathomable inspiration. He flipped through page after page like this, annotating, supplementing. Soon he filled up 7 more pages. This was more than what he had written down during his inspiration. Then he flipped through the pages a 3rd time. This time, the pressure was much less. He looked over the 10 pages that were completely packed with words, feeling more relaxed as he got closer to the end. Excellent, the compensation was much more timely. Over half of his thoughts still remained as traces. Some were even quite full and accurate. Luo Nan's wristband vibrated, and Luo Nan completely ignored it at first. But then Driver Chin coughed to alert him, and only then did Luo Nan glance at the caller ID. Luo Nan's scalp went tense. "Aunt," gasped Luo Nan. "Where are you? Do you know what time is it? Why aren't you home?" Mrs. Luo Shuking's tone was filled with repressed emotions, the pressure underlying everything. She was probably very angry. Luo Nan's mind went blank. Right, where was he? He turned his head to look at Driver Chin. Driver Chin turned on the headlights of the car, indicating to Luo Nan to watch the signs up ahead. Luo Nan saw a road sign and immediately recited its words. "I'm at Ronxing Road. Cough, it's outside the community. I'll be there soon." Luo Nan was only able to confirm the time at this moment. He had been fine without knowing it, but his cheeks spasmed when he saw the time. 23:47. It was practically midnight. And at the same time, Luo Nan confirmed that the security vehicle he was riding had already stopped outside the community. He didn't know how long it had been since they stopped. In the driver's seat, Driver Chin sat upright quietly, maintaining his silence until now. This was his usual style. Luo Nan had to express his thanks. Otherwise, his recollection of his insights would have been interrupted, making it impossible for him to fill 10 pages with inspired writings. "Much thanks, Brother Chin." Luo Nan revealed his awkward and clumsy tongue once more. He came to a screeching halt, not knowing what else to say. Driver Chin chuckled and did something rare for him. He spoke, "Cultivating. I never had the time for it, especially when I first learn a new move. When I started learning martial arts, when I just learned some skills from my teacher, I would tweak my ears and scratch my cheeks in impatience, itching to master the skills the next day. And when I discovered my special ability, well, that's something that doesn't need saying. Driver Chin was good at understanding others, and Luo Nan's emotions of awkwardness were substantially alleviated. Luo Nan was in no rush to go back home, now that they were right at the entrance to the community. There was his current mental state, and he also held the boxes of drugs. There was an 80% chance that these items would be confiscated on the spot if he were to take them home. Luo Nan slowly adjusted his breathing, calming his mood. He easily asked about Driver Chin's circumstances in what could be considered idle chatter. Brother Chin is a martial artist as well. Are you dual cultivating in martial arts and in your special ability? Driver Chin gave a subtle nod. I was learning martial arts at the Lu Gym when I inexplicably awakened to my ability. Then my martial arts became less and less pure. This made my master very angry. He had spoken modestly, but Luo Nan felt veneration for him. The Lu Gym, so Brother Chin is under Mr. Giant Arm. Mr. Giant Arm was an exceptional man with a pair of thick muscular arms. Luo Nan had an utterly deep impression of the man. The power of Giant Arm's pure fleshy body could penetrate steel, the strength of his fists absolute. It was quite inconceivable. Luo Nan only came to find out later that Mr. Giant Arm was a powerful man ranked in the top 10 of Xia City in terms of strength with the fleshly body. He was outstanding with the level of B rank. Driver Chin quite revered Giant Arm as well. Mr. has purely tempered the fleshly body. His arts are the purest of the pure. I not only have been distracted by my special ability, my temperament is also a bit too gentle. I'm not quite suited for Mr.'s punching techniques. I have only learned some superficial knowledge. Your special ability and your martial arts can't push each other to higher heights. Driver Chin chuckled. My special ability is far too slanted for defense. Mr.'s punching techniques pay particular attention to explosiveness. There are uncompromisable aspects for both sides in the ND. Luo Nan gave a grunt in response and subconsciously studied Driver Chin, but he forgot that his mind today was quite stimulated. His soul strength was also quite lively. He subconsciously observed him with clairvoyance. In an instant, Driver Chin's body seemed to dematerialize, while a simple set of stars were arranged within. The stars were connected to each, forming a special image. This was a life sketch. Oh, there was more. Chapter 362, New Picture, Part 1-3. Translator, Strivon. Within and outside, the simple and abstract life sketch of Driver Chin were countless grains of stars. They appeared intermittently, radiating rays of subtle warmth. Luo Nan couldn't hold back from taking out previous life sketches he drew to make comparisons. The most particular were that of Cat Eyes and Zhang Yingying, people who he had observed in great detail. Every single star that appeared for their life sketch shone bright and radiant, contrasting intensely with the deep darkness of the void. Upon paper with the same background of darkness were silver-white dots akin to the drops of candle wax. Between them lay connecting lines that were hard to distinguish between being present or non-existent. Such a scene was undoubtedly affected by the visualization diagram. When looked at independently, it appeared like an abstract symbol. Only when these sketches of terrifying scales were pieced together did they cause one's senses to no longer be entwined with the details. Only then did the sketches form the grand and magnificent view of the vast and hazy starry sky. This was why Luo Nan called them sketches. They were outlines of just finished compositions. They were sketches and drafts lacking the details sculpted within. As for the star atlas before his eyes, the greatest difference from before was embodied within the details. Hundreds and thousands of stars were scattered within a fixed scope. Their luminosities differed, and their magnitudes varied. Some owned a radiance that dazzled the eyes, while some could barely be seen. The limited, yet clear star atlas had become complicated due to this. At the same time, it changed into something much more lively. Even the tiniest of areas were drawn with exquisite and trustworthy details. It was like being on a high plateau where the atmosphere was crystal clear, far away from the light pollution of the metropolis, allowing one to see the splendid night sky. It was enough to make Luo Nan forget that this was merely the frame of a body and soul for a single ability user, and nothing more. The current Luo Nan was far different from how he was back when he first drew the life sketches. He extended his hand and gestured across the stars like a deity, but he had spent a bit too long staring at Driver Chin in this spellbound state. Even Driver Chin, with his steady nature, couldn't refrain from coughing to alert Luo Nan. "Oh, I'm sorry." Luo Nan had said such words at least 3 times this night. Luckily, Driver Chin didn't mind, resuming his usual quiet state. He just responded with a smile. Luo Nan couldn't understand it. Why did his clairvoyance suddenly appear with much more detail when it came to life sketches? In any case, he knew that he should be getting off the car and going home. He gracefully declined Driver Chin's good intentions to help once more as he got off the car. Luo Nan lifted the 2 boxes out from the trunk, the notebooks clasped under his left arm. It was a bit awkward, but he could still walk. He bid Driver Chin farewell, then he headed straight home. He walked to the road of the community, and there was no other person in sight under the streetlights. This sort of scene compelled one's thoughts to go wild. Luo Nan's mind subconsciously began to surge. Why did he become interested in Driver Chin? It was because of his words. It vaguely conformed with Gym Master Xiu's words dealing with the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger technique of subdivision. Those awakened with supernatural powers could comprehend the root receptacle. On the other hand, temperament fell under the root nature. He walked a different path than Mr. Giant Arm. This was the problem with the selection of the root trigger. This was the principle. According to Gym Master Xiu's teachings, Luo Nan needed to find a suitable place to begin. Luo Nan's direction had been very fuzzy during the lecture, but after experiencing his burst of insight, as well as the clairvoyance he used on Driver Chin, the situation subtly changed. Luo Nan suppressed the impulse to go looking for people and adjusted his breathing. He let his feverish mind cool for a second. He first walked to the detached garage outside of his aunt's master bedroom. This was a 3-dimensional garage that was quite a common sight among the properties of the middle class of the city. It was divided into 2 levels, and each of the 2 cars of the household were placed on each level. It used a converter to adjust the level, taking the required car out. The space was a bit small, and its functions were simple. It couldn't hold a lot of stuff. However, there was a wooden door installed atop the lawn in the back of the garage and at the edge of the yard. Opening this door revealed a flight of stairs that led to an underground space. This was an underground storeroom. Rumor had it that Moya had hidden it from the rest of the family back when she was in her 2nd year of middle school. She spent a year's worth of time digging out the space by herself. Unfortunately, She was found out, and she had to pay a considerable fine to the community. The sophomore Moya of middle school was a standard young girl. She treated this secret space like a tree house. She later grew out of it, no longer playing here. She gave this place to Luo Nan, letting him store some sensitive materials inside. This storeroom was the greatest reason why he was able to conceal his independent drug synthesis from his aunt and uncle for the past 5 years. There were favors all around, so he especially had to lower his head toward Mo Ye. Luo Nan took the boxes and placed them in a secret compartment within the storeroom. He turned around and was about to leave when a thought suddenly stirred within his mind. He placed the 2 notebooks he had clasped under his arm in the secret compartment as well. Luo Nan placed both books, not just one, because he was worried. He was worried that if he really did take the notebook with the recorded insights back into his room, he wouldn't be able to sleep this night. He needed to continue with his good tempo of work and rest. He wanted to avoid destroying it with exhaustion. Making this resolution was not easy. Luo Nan practically looked back every 3 steps. This lasted until he reached ground level and closed the trapdoor. Only then did he let out a long breath of relief. He walked back to the house, welcoming his aunt's reprimanding. Though there were many variables, he still endured a lecture when he got home. But this night, Luo Nan had experienced many things. It was a fruitful night. Callously placing the notebook in the underground storeroom was an effective action. It helped Luo Nan strictly follow the needs that Gym Master Xiu had laid down when it came to the meridians. Blood and energy had to be raised and lowered before sleeping, refining the life essence of the body. This was to be done to ensure that the inner organs, the 4 limbs, and the hundreds of bones proceeded in parallel from inside to out. The energies circulated in layers, conforming with the 9 orifices and 6 roots. Only then did it conclude. Therefore, tonight required several times more work when compared to purely cultivating the eye's orifice. A large chunk of time was set aside for it. By the time he woke up from his meditative state that teetered on the edge of clear and unclear, it was already a bit past 4 in the early morning. It was just about time for him to start on his morning exercises. If future nights were all like this, then he probably wouldn't need to sleep anymore. Luo Nan smacked his lips, savoring the fresh feeling of the newly opened orifice. The orifice of his mouth and tongue was producing liquid, which tasted sweet and refreshing. It was completely different from the nasty breath he used to have in his daily life upon waking up. Luo Nan naturally swallowed the liquid, and the liquid steadily flowed. He moved his tongue, feeling quite nimble. Unfortunately, the clumsy actions he made with his mouth when talking was ultimately caused by his wisdom and temperament. This newly developed skill was wasted on him. He had experienced this small change with his mouth and tongue yesterday. Currently, the most he could say that this did was save him a bit of mouthwash. It wasn't really something to get excited about. Luo Nan was still expecting its true marvels to reveal themselves. Today was November 3, 2096. It was a Saturday, the day Luo Nan had planned to do his closed-door cultivation. Perhaps it was compensation. His guardians were very busy these days. It was the start of the month routine statistics period for the SCA. Luo Nan's uncle was a high-level member and a technological expert. He had to be present to supervise. His aunt was a senior member of HR in a large company, and a new department was recruiting. She had to work overtime for this, so she didn't have time to be at home. This gave Luo Nan a stress-free distraction-free environment. Luo Nan came back home from his morning run, his mood turning great once he found out all this information. His appetite rose quite a bit. But he was far too naive. Mo Peng, who should still be sleeping in, as was his usual custom on weekends, had shuffled down the stairs at 7 o'clock. His round, plump body brought with it a different vibe to him. He saw that his dad and mother weren't paying attention to the home for now, so he smacked Luo Nan with a question. "Have you arranged things on your end yet?" That's a wrap for this installment. Thank you all for watching and supporting Lord of the Stories. If you enjoyed this tale, please hit the like button, share it, and subscribe for more amazing stories. You can also explore other series updated daily in our playlists. Have a fantastic day and see you in the next episode.